This segment is about The Puppy and the Parasite, which sounds like a funny book, like that you have pictures on. But it isn't. It's about parasites in dogs, both worms, what we call worms, and also bacteria, both in the same segment. One of the things I want to let you know right away is the way we actually worm our dogs in our kennel. Number one, all of our adult dogs are wormed on a monthly basis. And also in my environment, my dogs are not in little tiny kennels, so they run free a lot. My dogs are allowed to be dogs, so they are outdoors. Sometimes they're running in fields and they might drink a puddle. Sometimes we're walking down the road and all of a sudden one of the dogs that we're walking will have a bird that was on the road, crunch, 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 crunch. They can grab any kind of rodent or rabbit or anything like that, and they can pick up parasites. If they're putting their nose to the ground, if they're walking on the ground, they can pick up parasites. So you have to do something on a regular basis to prevent that. Even if we have super sanitary conditions like we have here, we raise all of our dogs indoors. Their boxes are cleaned every day and sanitized. The bedding is changed every day. They're wormed on a regular basis. They're checked regularly. Their fecal sample is checked regularly to make sure that we're worming them appropriately and that by the time they're going home that we get a negative, hopefully. If not, sometimes we will send somebody home with an extra worming after the puppies are away from the litter, just to make sure that they're clear, because sometimes puppies have a way of reinfesting themselves, especially if they're outdoors. In the nice weather, we take them out a lot of times, and you know, they can be little vacuum cleaners and they can lick the grass, they can lick puddles and get things in their mouths. So we just keep doing that on a regular basis, and that's one of the reasons that people come to us as an experienced breeder who knows how to also prevent some of this stuff and make sure that it doesn't creep up. And if it does, we know how to treat it and to tell people to treat it even if they run into it after they get home or their dogs contract some kind of bacteria or parasite once they leave here. Some of the typical parasites and the most common would be roundworms. And some people will say every litter is born with roundworms. I will not say that because I can't say it 100% of the time that that's true. I have had litters that have been born who've never had parasites, but it is such a grueling task to make sure that all your adults never ever get them and keep from getting any of them. So you just have to do regular worming, as well as we give them medications for certain bacteria too that dogs pick up very naturally. So one of the things would be roundworms, and then some other not so common in my kennel anyway would be things like hookworms, whipworms. Some of these parasites can enter through the pads of the feet. Sometimes they can enter through the mouth, which is most common if they pick up, say, a dead animal or something that's on the ground left over from an animal, or another animal that may be infested. So those things I don't see as often. I think I've seen whipworm maybe once in the last 10 years. And you know, we did the appropriate worming for that. There's spores everywhere, so that's why I say, you know, when dogs go out and they drink puddles and stuff like that, they can pick up things like Giardia, which would be in standing water. That's very normal. One of the reasons that we change the dog's water all day long here at the kennel is so that it's not standing water too, and make sure that the bowls are scrubbed out and, you know, nothing is able to grow in there that gets green or anything like that, and the outdoor runs as well. So we're really careful about that. Also, coccidia, we talked about in another segment, which is another bacteria, lays dormant in a dog's system and does not actually manifest until the dog's under stress. That can be an adult dog, that can be a young puppy. The young puppies we're more concerned about because they can go down very fast, like a little baby. They can get dehydrated very fast. You know, if they've got the runs, then you never let a dog have diarrhea more than 12 hours without doing something, whether that's Pepto-Bismol, some children's Imodium, or maybe something we've given you, or some canned pumpkin, things like that. And we've talked in other segments about not changing their water, you know, when they leave here, and changing food and stuff like that, which will just make that worse. Some of the other things just to talk about quickly would be the fact that, you know, as humans, we know that we transfer viruses and germs. So it's hard to expect that in a kennel environment or dogs are outside running around. My dogs go to dog shows, so you know, it's impossible to expect that they're not going to ever contract anything. One of the best vaccines I have is that my dogs do go out to dog shows after they've had their, obviously their required vaccines. But there's a lot of viruses and bacteria out there that there's no vaccine for. So that's why we do so much to build the immune systems of our dogs. So when your dog leaves here, it's been on super high antioxidants like our new vet supplement since it was a puppy in a powdered form when they start eating, and they've been on that, you know, a week before they leave in a capsule form, and then we have you take the capsule form home, so that if your dog does come in contact with something that there may not be a virus for, your dog's gonna have a huge, strong immune system to be able to fight something like that more than another dog. So that's something that we do preventatively. Also, as well, fleas, ticks, things on the coat, you'll be taken care of with things like Advantix, which is a topical product that we use on our dogs. I used to use Frontline, but I had a couple dogs ended up with Lyme's disease, even though we were doing regular treatment. So we changed to Advantix because it's a little different in how it works in repelling the ticks and not letting them actually get on the dog and have the virus transferred. It does repel them instead of just killing them once they're on the dog. One of the other things we do is we make sure that we vaccinate at the right time. There's a lot of controversy about vaccines, but there are some things that you really do need to make sure that you do. Even if you're not really into vaccines, I do recommend you at least do the first series of puppy vaccinations. I have to do them because I'm licensed by the state. If you don't want to be vaccinating your dog every year, you can check for titers. Ask your veterinarian, can you check for titers before you vaccinate my dog, to make sure that the dog has the immunity to that thing, so that I'm not going ahead and vaccinating it and it doesn't really need to be. So that's one thing that you can do. When you go home, make sure that you're doing a regular stool sample with your dog. However your vet wants to do that with you. You can find out your first vet visit, a well puppy checkup, which also you want to take a stool sample with you when you go home with one of our puppies, just to double check and make sure, and then be checking that regularly to make sure that they're not contracting anything when they're out there at dog parks or walking down the street or something like that. It's something that you just can't ignore when you're talking about dogs. So that's it about the puppy and the parasite.